we're about to examine emerged from the darkness at precisely that moment. History may call it coincidence. Faith calls it timing. And what those scrolls contain, the calendar system that the Essenes believed was the true clock of God, is what we need to look at next. Because it wasn't just different from the calendar everyone else used, it was built on a completely different understanding of how time itself works. And when you see the structure of that calendar, and when you understand the prophetic cycles embedded inside it, you'll understand why a growing number of scholars, pastors, and prophecy students believe it points directly to the generation living right now. Discovery 2: a calendar that didn't match anyone else's. Now, to understand why the Essene calendar matters, you first need to understand the problem it was trying to solve. Because the Essenes didn't create a new calendar out of thin air. They created it because they believed the calendar being used by everyone else. The official calendar of the Jerusalem temple, the calendar that determined when every feast, every sacrifice, and every holy day was observed, was wrong. And not just slightly off, catastrophically wrong, spiritually corrupted, and leading the entire nation of Israel to worship on the wrong days. Here's the background, and this detail is critical, because if you don't understand this, you'll miss the significance of everything that comes after. The traditional Jewish calendar is a lunar calendar. It's based on the cycles of the moon, roughly 354 days per year. Each month begins with the new moon. The feasts and festivals are tied to these lunar cycles, which means they shift slightly from year to year relative to the solar seasons. To compensate for the drift, the calendar adds a leap month 7 times every 19 years. It's a workable system. It's been in use for centuries, and it's the system that mainstream Judaism follows to this day. But the Essenes said it was broken. Their argument went like this: the original calendar, the one God established at creation, the one embedded in the structure of Genesis itself, was not based on the moon. It was based on the sun, a solar calendar, exactly 364 days per year, not 365, not 354, 364. And here's why that number matters mathematically. Because 364 is divisible by 7, perfectly, cleanly, without remainder. 364 divided by 7 equals 52. 52 perfect weeks, every year, without exception. No half weeks, no leftover days that push the calendar off alignment, no feast days that fall on different weekdays from year to year. In the Essene solar calendar, the Sabbath always falls on the same day. Passover always falls on the same day. The Day of Atonement always falls on the same day. Every appointed time, every moed, to use the Hebrew word, is fixed, permanent, unchanging, as orderly and predictable as the God who created it. And that was the Essenes' entire point. God is a God of order, not chaos, not approximation, not close enough. If God appointed specific times for his people to meet with him, specific feasts, specific Sabbaths, specific days of remembrance and atonement, then the calendar that determines when those times occur must be precise. It must be fixed. It must be as reliable as the sun itself. The lunar calendar, in their view, was a corruption, an import, something the Jewish people had picked up during the Babylonian exile, a pagan influence that had infiltrated the most sacred rhythm of Jewish life. And by using the wrong calendar, the Jerusalem priesthood was causing all of Israel to observe God's holy days on the wrong dates. The feasts were off. the Sabbaths were misaligned. The entire nation was showing up to meet God on the wrong days and calling it faithfulness. The Essenes called their system the Calendar of Light. They detailed it in multiple scrolls, including sections of the Book of Jubilees and numerous calendrical texts found at Qumran. The year was divided into 12 months, 4 seasons of 3 months each. Each season contained 2 months of 30 days and 1 month of 31 days, with an additional intercalary day marking each seasonal transition, the equinoxes and solstices. The math was elegant, the structure was symmetrical, and the Essenes believed it wasn't their invention. It was God's design, revealed at creation and preserved by the faithful. But here's what makes this calendar far more than a scheduling system. And this is the part that most people have never been told. The Essene calendar wasn't just for tracking worship days. It was a prophetic clock, a framework for understanding not just when to observe the feasts, but when the feasts themselves would be fulfilled on the stage of human history. Because embedded inside this calendar, woven into its mathematical structure like threads in a tapestry, were 2 ancient cycles that the Essenes believed were the skeleton key to understanding all of history. 2 cycles that come directly from the Torah. 2 cycles that God commanded Israel to observe. 2 cycles that most modern Christians have never heard of. But that may hold the key to understanding where we are right now on God's prophetic timeline. And the first one starts with a number that appears more often in Scripture than almost any other: 7. In the book of Leviticus, God gave Israel a command that most people skip over because it seems agricultural, practical, earthy. Nothing to do with prophecy. Nothing to do with the end times. Just a rule about farming. But the Essenes didn't skip over it. They built their entire understanding of history on top of it. Leviticus 25:3-4. 6 years thou shalt sow thy field, and 6 years thou shalt prune thy vineyard, and gather in the fruit thereof. But in the 7th year shall be a Sabbath of rest unto the land, a Sabbath for the Lord. Thou shalt neither sow thy field, nor prune thy vineyard. 6 years of work, 1 year of rest, a 7-year cycle, repeated over and over throughout the life of the nation. This is what's known as the Shemitah, the sabbatical year. Every 7th year, the land rests. Debts are released. The soil recovers. The people are reminded that the land is not theirs. It belongs to God. They are stewards, not owners. And every 7 years, that truth is reinforced by an entire year of release. But God didn't stop at 7 years. He layered another cycle on top of it, one that was even more dramatic, even more consequential, and even more saturated with prophetic meaning. Leviticus 25:8-10. And thou shalt know